Millionaire couldn't perform for 10 years until he met the beautiful doctor who changed his life. The truth will make you cry. What happened is one of the greatest stories you'll ever hear. If you miss this, you'll definitely lose a gem. This story is dedicated to my beautiful, loyal and loving family, the ones who have always stood by me. Everything begins with love, and that's where our story starts. Before we dive in, I have one small favor to ask. Please like this video, subscribe and comment present so I know my family is here. Your love gives meaning to every word I speak. Thank you for being my greatest gift. They say a man's castle is his kingdom, but mine became a tomb where I buried my manhood alive, one poisoned cup at a time. Andrew Benjamin stood in what used to be called the Grand Hall, though there was nothing grand about it anymore. Dust covered the marble floors like a burial shroud. Cobwebs hung from the crystal chandelier that hadn't sparkled in years. The mansion still breathed wealth in every corner. Imported Italian furniture, original paintings on the walls, silk curtains that cost more than most people's cars, but it all felt hollow, dead, like everything else in his life. He walked to the window overlooking what used to be immaculate gardens. Now weeds choked the rose bushes. The fountain stood dry and cracked. Even nature had given up on this place. The coffee cup sat on the side table where he'd left it that morning. Cold now. He stared at it, remembering all those other cups, all those mornings. The memory hit him like it always did, sharp, cruel, unforgiving. She'd been beautiful, stunning, really. The kind of woman who turned heads when she entered a room. Long legs, perfect smile, eyes that promised everything. He'd been a fool to believe any of it was real. "Here's your coffee, darling," she'd say every morning, her voice sweet as honey. "I made it special for you. You work so hard. You need to relax." He could see her now in his mind, standing in their bedroom in a silk robe, holding that cup with both hands like it was precious. Like he was precious. Just some herbs, she'd smiled when he asked. "For your stress. A doctor friend recommended them. They'll help you sleep better, feel stronger." He'd believed her. God, how he'd believed her. Month after month, he drank what she gave him. And month by month, something inside him died. Not all at once. Slowly, like watching a flower wilt in reverse, starting from the inside, spreading outward until even the petals turned to dust. His body betrayed him in ways he couldn't understand, couldn't explain, couldn't fix. The first time he couldn't perform, she'd been understanding. "It happens to everyone, honey. You're just tired." The second time, her voice had an edge. "Again, maybe you should see someone." By the fifth time, the mask dropped completely. "What kind of man are you?" she'd hissed, pulling away from him like he was diseased. "I have needs, Andrew. Needs. And you can't even—" He'd tried everything, vitamins, exercise, rest, prayer. Nothing worked. His body no longer recognized him as its master. The parties became torture chambers. He could still hear the conversations at his own charity gala. Her voice pitched just loud enough for the circle of business associates to hear. "I don't know what's wrong with him," she'd said, her hand resting on another man's arm. "A man who worked for Andrew. He's just not a man anymore, if you know what I mean." The laughter had been polite but pointed, knowing. Andrew had stood 10 feet away, champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips, feeling every eye in the room slide toward him, then quickly away. The pity was worse than the mockery. Poor Andrew. "I heard he can't. No wonder she looks elsewhere." His wife had smiled at him across the room that night. Not a loving smile. A victorious one. The smile of someone who'd won a war he hadn't known they were fighting. The humiliation burned deeper than any physical pain. It lived in his chest like a coal that never stopped smoldering. At night, alone in his bed, because she'd moved to the guest room long ago, he'd stare at the ceiling and wonder how his life had become this nightmare. She spent his money like water, jewelry, trips, designer, everything. He'd watch his accounts drain and say nothing, because what was money compared to feeling like a man? If he couldn't give her what she needed in bed, maybe he could at least keep her happy with gifts. Pathetic. He knew it even then. But love makes fools of everyone, and he'd loved her desperately. Or thought he did. Maybe it was just the terror of being alone that kept him holding on. The final night replayed in his mind with crystal clarity. His own charity gala, an event he'd hosted for years, raising funds for children's hospitals. Hundreds of the city's most influential people filling the ballroom downstairs in this very mansion. She'd worn red, blood red, a dress that left nothing to imagination. She'd walked to the center of the ballroom, taken a microphone from the band, and smiled at the crowd. "I have an announcement," she'd said, her voice cutting through the music. Andrew had been near the bar, sensing disaster but unable to move. "I'm leaving my husband," she'd announced, her words echoing off the marble walls. "I'm leaving this weak, broken man who can't even satisfy a woman. And I'm going with someone who actually knows how to treat me right." She gestured toward Andrew's business partner, a man he'd trusted, mentored, considered a friend. The man had stepped forward, put his arm around her waist, and they'd walked out together while hundreds of people watched in stunned silence. The room had erupted in whispers. Andrew had stood frozen, his tuxedo suddenly feeling like a straitjacket, the walls closing in. Someone had touched his shoulder. He jerked away and actually ran up the stairs to his bedroom and locked the door. That was the last time he'd left this house. That was the last time he'd faced the world that watched him crumble. The years blurred together after that. At first, people called, knocked on the door, sent letters. He ignored them all. Eventually, they stopped trying. His fortune dwindled. Not from living he barely ate, but from her. Even after she left, there were lawyers, settlements, claims on properties and accounts. She took everything she could reach, and he let her. What did money matter when you couldn't even look at yourself in the mirror? The house staff quit one by one. No one to pay them, no one to manage them. The last maid had knocked on his bedroom door, voice gentle. "Mr. Benjamin, I'm so sorry, but I have to go. I hope you'll be okay." He hadn't answered. Had listened to her footsteps fade down the hallway, the front door close, and then silence. Complete, total, suffocating silence. He stopped answering phones, stopped opening mail, stopped pretending there was any reason to keep going, but he didn't end it. That would require courage he no longer possessed. Instead, he existed, haunting his own mansion like a ghost who forgot to die. The only thing he maintained was his car, a vintage beauty from better days, stored in the garage. Once a week he'd go down there, run the engine, check the tires. It was the only ritual that connected him to who he used to be, who he'd been before she poisoned him, literally and figuratively, until there was nothing left but shame and silence. He never went to a hospital. Never sought help. The thought of sitting in a waiting room, explaining to some doctor that his wife had destroyed his manhood with mysterious medicines while he was too stupid to notice, the humiliation was unbearable. Better to just fade away quietly, alone, forgotten. Andrew looked at the cold coffee cup again and felt nothing. He'd felt nothing for so long that numbness seemed like his natural state. Then something changed. The silence was broken by a sound he hadn't heard in months, his own stomach. Growling, loud, insistent, demanding. When had he last eaten? Yesterday? The day before? He couldn't remember. The kitchen was empty, bare, nothing but dust and regret. For the first time in years, Andrew felt something other than shame. He felt hunger, basic, primal, undeniable hunger. The realization shocked him. His body still wanted to live, even if his mind had given up. He walked to the garage on unsteady legs. The car gleamed in the darkness, the only thing in his life he hadn't let decay. He ran his hand along the hood, feeling the cold metal beneath his palm. Just to get food, he told himself. Just this once. He climbed behind the wheel, turned the key, and felt the engine roar to life. The sound vibrated through his chest, powerful, alive, everything he wasn't. Andrew backed out of the garage for the first time in forever. The evening sun hit his eyes, and he squinted against brightness he'd forgotten existed. The world looked different, sharper, more real than his shadowy existence inside those mansion walls. He drove without thinking, letting muscle memory guide him, away from the city, away from anyone who might recognize him. The countryside stretched endlessly on both sides. Fields, trees, emptiness. The storm came from nowhere. One moment the sky was clear, the next it opened up with fury. Rain hammered the windshield. Thunder shook the frame. Lightning split the sky in jagged white scars. Then the engine sputtered. "No," Andrew whispered. "No, no, no." The car rolled to a stop on the side of an empty road, middle of nowhere. No houses, no lights. Just rain and darkness and the crushing realization that even his one reliable thing had abandoned him. He sat in the driver's seat, rain pounding the roof, and felt something crack inside his chest. Not his heart, that had broken long ago. Something deeper, something that had been holding him together through sheer stubbornness. He started laughing, harsh, bitter laughter that turned into sobs, that turned into screams. "Is this it?" he yelled at the storm. "Is this how it ends?" The universe didn't answer. It never did. Through the rain-streaked windshield, something caught his eye. A light, small, distant, but unmistakably real. A single point of warmth in all that cold darkness. Andrew grabbed his jacket, threw open the car door, and ran toward that light like a drowning man, swimming toward shore. Chapter 2. The Woman Who Saw Through Ghosts. The clinic appeared through the rain like something from a dream. Small, wooden, glowing with impossible warmth. A hand-painted sign swung in the wind. "Countryside Medical Clinic, all welcome." Andrew stumbled up the steps, his clothes plastered to his body, and pounded on the door, once, twice. His fist froze mid-knock when the door opened. A woman stood in the doorway, backlit by soft amber light. She wasn't young. There were lines around her eyes, silver threading through her dark hair, but something about her made Andrew's breath catch. Not beauty, though she had that. Something else, something that felt like safety. "Come in from the rain," she said simply, stepping aside. Her voice was like honey and steel mixed together. Gentle but unbreakable. Andrew hesitated. He'd spent years avoiding human contact. The thought of stepping into that light, of being seen, made his skin crawl with panic. "You'll catch your death out there," the woman added, not unkindly. "Come on!" He stumbled inside. Water dripped from his clothes onto her clean floor, forming puddles that looked like accusations. "I'm sorry. My car broke down. I just need to use a phone. I'll call someone." The woman studied him with eyes that saw too much. Andrew fought the urge to run back into the storm. "You're soaked through," she said, ignoring his words entirely. "And you look half-starved." I'm not sure." "That's what I thought." She moved to a cabinet, pulled out towels. "I'm Angel Elijah. I run this clinic. Andrew Benjamin." If the name meant anything to her, she didn't show it. She just handed him the towels. "Well, Andrew Benjamin, you're going to dry off, and then you're going to sit at that table while I make you something to eat. I don't need—" "Yes, you do." Her tone left no room for argument. Andrew found himself obeying. He dried his face, his hair, his hands that shook slightly. The clinic smelled like herbs and something else he couldn't name. Peace, maybe. If peace had a smell. Angel moved around a small kitchen area with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, she set a bowl of soup in front of him. Simple, hot, real. "Eat." He picked up the spoon. His hand trembled so badly the first attempt spilled back into the bowl. Angel said nothing, just waited. Andrew tried again. This time the spoon made it to his mouth. The soup tasted like life itself, warm, savory, proof that good things still existed in the world. He ate slowly at first, then faster, unable to stop. When had food last tasted like anything but obligation? Angel sat across from him, sipping tea, watching without judgment. That was the strangest part. No pity in her eyes, no curiosity, just presence. The storm's not letting up. Roads will be dangerous. "You should stay until morning. I can't impose." "You can and you will." She stood, moving toward a door at the back. "There's a small recovery room with a bed." Patients use it sometimes when they need observation. You'll sleep there tonight. Why are you helping me? Angel paused in the doorway, looked back at him. Really looked, like she could see through his skin to all the broken pieces underneath. Because you knocked on my door, she said quietly, and I've never turned anyone away who needed help. She disappeared into the back room. Andrew sat alone with his empty bowl and a feeling he couldn't name. Not hope, not yet, but something adjacent to it. Something that whispered maybe he wasn't completely invisible after all. The recovery room was small but clean. Fresh sheets on the bed, a window overlooking the storm. Andrew lay down fully clothed, certain he wouldn't sleep. He was wrong. Sleep pulled him under like a riptide, dragging him into the first dreamless rest he'd had in years. No nightmares of her laughter, no memories of humiliation. Just darkness and quiet and the sound of rain on the roof. When Andrew woke, sunlight streamed through the window. Morning. He'd slept through the entire night. The realization shocked him. Voices drifted from the main room. Angel talking to someone. A patient, probably. Andrew sat up slowly. His body ached everywhere. The kind of deep ache that comes from years of neglect finally being noticed. He should leave. Sneak out before Angel saw him in daylight. Saw how pathetic he really was, but his legs wouldn't move. The door opened. Angel stepped in carrying a tray. Coffee, toast, eggs. Thought you might be hungry. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. She sat in the chair beside the bed. How do you feel? Confused. Why are you being so kind to a stranger? Angel smiled, and something about it cracked another piece of the ice around Andrew's chest. Everyone's a stranger until they're not. Besides, you look like you needed kindness more than you needed questions. They sat in comfortable silence while Andrew ate. Real food, real company, real human connection he'd forgotten existed. Your car's still out there. I called a mechanic friend. He'll take a look this afternoon. I should go. I've bothered you enough. Where will you go? The question hung in the air. Andrew had no answer. Back to his empty mansion. Back to his tomb of shame and silence? Stay at least until your car's fixed. I could use some help around here anyway. The place needs repairs I keep putting off. I can't hold a hammer? I bet you can. Everyone can do something useful. Andrew looked at this woman, who'd opened her door to a drowning stranger and couldn't understand her at all. People didn't just help. They wanted something, expected something. There was always a price. Nothing you're not willing to give, Angel said, reading his thoughts. Maybe just your time, maybe just your company, maybe just the chance to help someone who clearly needs it. I don't need help. Everyone needs help, Andrew. The ones who say they don't are usually the ones who need it most. She stood, moved toward the door. The mechanic will be here this afternoon. Until then, if you want to make yourself useful, there's a broken chair in the waiting room that could use fixing. Tools are in the closet. She left before he could argue. Andrew sat alone with his empty plate and a chest full of feelings he didn't know how to process. He should leave, get his car fixed and run back to his safe isolation, but something kept him rooted to that bed. Some small voice that whispered, staying isn't weakness, but the first brave thing you've done in years. By afternoon, Andrew had fixed 3 chairs, organized the supply closet, and repaired a leaking faucet. His hands remembered how to work. His body remembered how to move with purpose. Angel appeared periodically, smiling at his progress, but never hovering, just letting him be useful, letting him matter. When the mechanic arrived, the diagnosis was simple. Needs a new part. Have to order it. Few days at least. Andrew's stomach dropped. Few days, he'd have to stay in town, face the world beyond these clinic walls. He can stay here, Angel said before Andrew could panic. The mechanic shrugged and left. After he was gone, Andrew turned to Angel. I should find a motel. I have an empty room. You clearly need somewhere to stay. Seems simple to me. Nothing's ever that simple. Maybe it is, and we just convince ourselves otherwise. Angel moved to the window. I lost someone once. Someone I loved more than breathing. After he died, I buried myself in work, helping others because I couldn't help him. Andrew waited, breath held. Sometimes the people we help end up saving us right back. She turned, her eyes impossibly kind. So maybe you staying here helps us both. Andrew's throat closed. He couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at him like he mattered, like his presence was gift rather than burden. Okay, I'll stay. Just until the car's fixed, Angel smiled. Just until the car's fixed. But something in her voice suggested she knew better, that neither of them believed that timeline, that maybe, just maybe, the broken-down car wasn't an accident but destiny finally intervening in a life that had been dying by inches. That night, Andrew helped Angel close the clinic. They worked in comfortable silence, straightening chairs, restocking supplies, turning off lights. Ordinary tasks that felt extraordinary simply because he wasn't alone while doing them. Thank you for everything. Angel looked at him, really looked, and Andrew felt seen in a way that terrified and thrilled him simultaneously. You're welcome, Andrew. Now go get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day. She walked toward her quarters, and Andrew watched her go, feeling something crack wider in his chest. Not breaking, opening, like a door rusted shut, finally moving on its hinges. He returned to the recovery room, lay in the dark, and for the first time in forever, Andrew Benjamin felt something other than shame. He felt possibility. Chapter 3. The flower that found the wrong hand's days blurred into each other in ways Andrew hadn't experienced since before his world collapsed. Not the empty blurring of depression where time meant nothing, but the full blurring of purpose where hours disappeared because they were actually filled with something. He found excuses to visit the clinic every morning. His car, he told himself, just checking on the car, making sure the mechanic hadn't called yet. But the truth sat heavier in his chest each day. He came back because of her. Angel never asked invasive questions, never pushed. She'd simply hand him a task. Fix this shelf, organize these files, sit with nervous patients in the waiting room, and let him exist without explanation, without judgment. It was terrifying and wonderful and completely foreign to everything Andrew had known. One afternoon, Angel was bandaging a little boy's scraped knee while his mother fretted nearby. Andrew watched from across the room, mesmerized by how gentle Angel's hands were, how her voice soothed the child's tears, how naturally kindness flowed from her like light from the sun. "You're staring," came a raspy voice beside him. Andrew jumped. An elderly woman sat in the waiting chair next to his, grinning with knowing eyes. I'm not, oh, honey. Don't bother denying it. These old eyes still work just fine." She patted his arm. "That Angel's something special, isn't she?" "She's very good at what she does," the woman cackled. "That she is. Saved my life twice now. Heart troubles. But that's not what I'm talking about, and you know it." Andrew's face burned. Was he really so transparent? She deserves someone good, someone with a kind heart, someone who'd treat her like the treasure she is. She does. So what are you waiting for, young man? Andrew looked at her, startled. She wouldn't. I've been alive a long time, son. I know what it looks like when two people are meant to find each other. Question is, are you brave enough to try? Before Andrew could respond, Angel called the elderly woman back for her examination. She winked at Andrew as she shuffled past. "Don't waste time, honey. Life's too short, and good ones like her don't stay single forever." Andrew sat alone, with her words echoing in his head. Was it really that obvious? Did Angel know? The thought simultaneously thrilled and horrified him. That night, lying in the recovery room that had become his unofficial home, Andrew made a decision. Tomorrow. Tomorrow he'd tell her. Not everything, God, he couldn't tell her everything, but enough. Enough to let her know that she'd changed something in him, that these days at her clinic had given him back a piece of his humanity. Morning came with agonizing slowness. Andrew rehearsed his speech 100 times, rewrote it, simplified it, complicated it again. By noon, he'd worked himself into such a state of nervous energy that he had to leave the clinic entirely. The small town had a market square. Andrew walked there on shaking legs, drawing a few curious glances from locals, but no recognition. Good. He needed anonymity right now, needed to blend into normalcy. A flower stand caught his eye, simple bouquets in mismatched vases. An old man tended them, humming softly to himself, "Help you, son. I'm looking for—" Andrew struggled to articulate. "Lady friend," something like that. The man selected a single white rose, simple, elegant, perfect. "This says what words can't. Trust me." Andrew paid him, clutched the rose like a lifeline, and walked back toward the clinic with his heart hammering against his ribs. This was insane, reckless. She'd probably laugh at him, or worse, pity him, but he couldn't stop walking. His feet carried him forward like they'd made their own decision. The clinic's waiting room had a few patients scattered in chairs. Angel stood at the reception desk writing notes. She hadn't seen him yet. This was it. No more cowardice, no more hiding. Andrew took a breath so deep it hurt, stepped forward. Another step, another. Angel glanced up, smiled that smile that turned his insides to liquid. "Hey, you! Thought you'd disappeared on me. I went to get—" His tongue turned to cement. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine. There's something I need to say to you." Angel's expression shifted to concern. She set down her pen. This was the moment. Everything hinged on the next words out of his mouth. Andrew closed his eyes. Courage. He just needed courage. He held out the rose, eyes squeezed shut because looking at her while doing this felt impossible. "Angel, I know this is crazy, and I know I'm probably the last person you'd ever, but I need you to know that you've given me something I thought was dead hope, purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning that doesn't feel like punishment." He felt the rose leave his hand. Relief crashed through him. He'd done it. Actually done it. Thank you. Just thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. He opened his eyes. A woman stood before him, but it wasn't Angel. It was the elderly woman from the waiting room, the one who told him not to waste time. She held his white rose in both gnarled hands, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks, her expression radiating pure joy. Oh my gracious, at my age, how wonderful, how absolutely wonderful." Andrew's blood turned to ice. "I'm so moved. I haven't received a flower from a gentleman since my Herbert passed. This is the sweetest thing anyone's done in years." I didn't mean—" The woman had walked up, must have walked up right as Angel stepped to answer the phone in her office, and positioned herself exactly where Angel had been standing. And he, eyes closed like an absolute fool, had handed the rose to the wrong person entirely. The waiting room went silent. Every patient stared. Some smiled. Some looked confused. One man's shoulders shook with barely suppressed laughter. Andrew's face burned hotter than the sun. His lungs forgot how to work. "You're such a romantic gentleman," the elderly woman proclaimed to the room at large. "Young people don't do this anymore. They don't appreciate the simple gestures. But this man understands elegance." Scattered applause broke out. Actual applause. From her office doorway, Angel appeared, phone still in hand. She took in the scene, the elderly woman with the rose, Andrew's crimson face, the amused waiting room, and her eyes went wide. Then her lips twitched. Then she pressed her hand over her mouth, but it was too late. She laughed, not a polite chuckle. A real, genuine, uncontrolled laugh that filled the entire clinic with warmth and music. Oh, Andrew. Oh, my God. The elderly woman finally understood. Her face split into the widest grin. "This wasn't for me, was it? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought you were. Don't you dare apologize. This made my whole month, maybe my whole year. You gave an old woman a story she'll tell everyone she knows." She leaned in conspiratorially. "And between you and me, your aim might be off, but your heart's in the right place." She walked back to her seat, still cradling the rose, announcing to everyone, "Did you all see that? A true gentleman. They do still exist." Angel crossed the room to Andrew, who seriously contemplated bolting out the door and never returning. She stopped inches away, eyes dancing with mirth. "Were you trying to give me a flower?" Andrew couldn't speak, could barely breathe, just nodded miserably. with your eyes closed. Another nod. That might be the sweetest and most awkward thing I've ever witnessed. She touched his arm gently. Come on, let's talk in my office. She guided him past the waiting room full of smiling faces. The elderly woman called out, Go get her, young man, and keep your eyes open this time. More laughter followed them, good-natured, warm, but Andrew still wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Angel closed the office door behind them, and suddenly they were alone in a space barely big enough for two people. Andrew stared at his shoes, certain he'd never be able to look her in the eye again. Andrew. Her voice was soft. Look at me. He forced his gaze up. Expected mockery or pity. Found neither. That was the sweetest thing I've ever seen, and the most honest. I'm an idiot. You're brave. She stepped closer. Do you have any idea how long it's been since someone tried to give me a flower? Since someone looked at me like I was more than just the doctor who patches people up? You deserve flowers every day. You deserve someone who isn't broken, who isn't scared of everything, who doesn't hand roses to random elderly women because he's too pathetic to open his eyes. Hey, Angel's hand found his. You're not pathetic. You're healing. There's a difference. You don't know what I am. You don't know what happened to me, what I've become. Then tell me. The invitation hung between them, terrifying and tempting in equal measure. Not here, not now, but maybe someday. I'll wait, however long it takes. From the waiting room, the elderly woman's voice carried through the door. Are they kissing in there? Someone tell me if they're kissing. Angel laughed again, and this time Andrew found himself laughing too. Laughing at the absurdity, the mortification, the impossibility of this moment. She's keeping that rose, you know. She'll press it in a book and tell everyone she meets about the romantic gentleman at the clinic. I'll never live this down. Probably not. Angel squeezed his hand. But you know what? You tried. That took courage. Real courage. She moved toward the door, paused with her hand on the knob. For what it's worth, Andrew, if you ever want to try again, with your eyes open this time, I wouldn't say no. She left him standing in her office, heart pounding, face still burning, but something new blooming in his chest, something that felt suspiciously like joy. When Andrew finally emerged, the elderly woman winked at him. Better luck next time, Romeo. The whole waiting room chuckled, but it wasn't cruel. It was the laughter of people who'd witnessed something genuine, something human and fumbling and real, and for the first time in forever, Andrew laughed with them. Chapter 4. The Truth That Breaks and Binds. Evening settled over the clinic like a soft blanket. The last patient had left hours ago. Angel moved through the space, turning off lights, organizing supplies for tomorrow. Andrew helped without being asked. A routine they'd fallen into, this quiet dance of partnership that required no discussion. Want some tea? Not sure. They sat at the worn wooden table where Andrew had eaten his first meal in her care. Steam rose from their cups, curling in the lamplight. Outside, crickets sang their nighttime chorus. Andrew, you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to share. But I want you to know. Whatever you're carrying, whatever happened, it's safe here. Andrew's hands tightened around his cup. The heat burned his palms, but he welcomed the distraction. Why do you care? I'm nobody to you, just some stranger who wandered in from a storm. You're not nobody. You're someone who's hurting, someone who's been hurting for a long time. And I became a doctor because I can't stand watching people suffer when there might be something I can do to help. I'm beyond help. Then we find that out together. She set down her cup, leaned forward slightly. But I don't believe you are. I've seen the way you've come alive these past weeks. The way you smile at the children. The way you lose yourself in fixing things. That's not a man beyond help. That's a man finding his way back. Andrew felt something crack inside his chest. The wall he'd built so carefully over years of isolation. Angel's steady kindness was dismantling it piece by piece. I used to be someone successful, respected. I had everything, mansion, cars, influence. Everything except the one thing that actually mattered, which was Real love. The words tasted bitter. I married a woman who saw me as a bank account, as a status symbol. I was too blind to see it, or maybe too desperate to admit it. Angel listened without interrupting, her expression open and calm. She was beautiful. Everyone wanted her, and somehow she chose me. I thought I was lucky. Andrew laughed without humor. God, I was such a fool. Angel waited, giving him space. Andrew took a shaking breath. This was it. The moment he either trusted completely or ran back into his shell forever. She started giving me things. Medicines, she called them. Said they were for stress. To help me relax, sleep better, feel stronger. I didn't question it. Why would I? She was my wife. She loved me. His voice cracked on the last word. But she didn't love me. She was destroying me, slowly, methodically. I don't know where she got whatever she was giving me, but it worked. My body, it started failing. Not all at once, little by little, until he couldn't say it. The shame choked him. Angel's hand covered his across the table, warm, steady. You couldn't perform. Andrew jerked his gaze up, shocked. No mockery in her eyes. No disgust. Just understanding. Yes, I became less than a man, and she made sure everyone knew it. At parties, at gatherings, she'd humiliate me, whisper to people just loud enough for me to hear, tell them I was broken, useless, not really a man at all. Tears burned his eyes, and he couldn't stop them from falling. Years of held-back grief finally breaking through. I tried everything. Different approaches, rest, exercise, nothing worked. Because she kept poisoning me, kept handing me those cups every morning, and I kept drinking them like the idiot I was. Until I had nothing left. No money, she spent it all. No dignity, she destroyed that publicly. No ability to even feel like I deserved to exist. Angel's grip tightened on his hand. When there was nothing left to take, she left me. Made a huge scene at my own event in front of hundreds of people. Announced she was leaving me for someone who could actually satisfy a woman. Then walked out with my business partner while everyone watched me crumble. The whole story spilled out. The isolation, the shame, the years of death while still breathing. Everything he'd never told another soul. When he finished, silence pressed down like a weight. Andrew waited for her to pull her hand away, to make excuses, to politely suggest he leave and never come back. Instead, Angel stood, walked around the table and knelt beside his chair. She took both his hands in hers and looked up at him with eyes that held no pity, only fierce determination. Listen to me, Andrew Benjamin. What happened to you was abuse. You were systematically poisoned and psychologically tortured by someone who was supposed to love you. None of it was your fault. But I let it happen. I drank what she gave me. I stayed when I should have. You stayed because you loved her, because you trusted her, because you believed in your marriage vows. That's not weakness. That's loyalty. She weaponized your goodness against you. I'm broken now, permanently. It's been years and I can't. I'm not a man anymore. Angel's expression turned from gentle to something almost angry. Stop saying that. You are a man, a good man, a man who survived something horrific. Your body may have been damaged, but bodies can heal. It's just a question of finding out what the damage is and treating it properly. I can't go to a hospital. I can't face the questions, the exams, Then let me examine you. Here, privately. Let me run some tests, figure out what we're dealing with. You don't have to face strangers. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone but me. Andrew stared at her, hardly daring to believe. Because I'm a doctor, and you need help. And because I care about you, Andrew. More than I probably should for someone I've only known a little while. But I do. You shouldn't. I'm not worth... Let me decide what you're worth. Her hands framed his face, forcing him to look at her. Let's heal this together. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. But you have to trust me. Andrew looked into her eyes, really looked, and saw no deceit, no hidden agenda, just honest compassion from a woman who saw him at his absolute worst and still didn't flinch. I'm terrified. Good. That means you still have something worth fighting. For I don't know if I can do this. Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I don't believe you are too far gone. I've seen men damaged by trauma, by medication, by psychological warfare. The human body is resilient, Andrew. And from what you're describing, you were systematically poisoned. That means there's a chance, a real chance, that with proper treatment your body can recover. Hope flickered in Andrew's chest. Dangerous, terrifying hope. You really think so? I don't make promises I can't keep, but yes, I think there's a very good chance we can heal you. Not overnight. This will take time, patience, commitment, but if you're willing to try, I'm willing to fight for you. Andrew felt something shift fundamentally inside him. For years, he'd believed himself beyond redemption, beyond repair. But here was this woman, this stranger who'd become something more, telling him that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as broken as he thought. Okay, I'll try. Angel smiled, and it transformed her entire face. That's all I need. We'll start tomorrow. Simple blood work first. Then we'll build a treatment plan based on what we find. She stood, pulled him up with her. You should rest. This was a lot. Angel? Yeah? Thank you. For not seeing me as disgusting, as less than human. Her expression turned fierce again. You're one of the bravest people I've ever met. It takes courage to survive what you survived. It takes even more courage to risk hope again. She walked him to the recovery room, and at the door, Andrew turned back. I'm scared of getting better. Why? Because what if I get better and you realize I'm not worth the effort? What if I'm still not enough? Angel's hand touched his cheek. Andrew, you're already enough. Broken or whole, you're enough. The healing isn't to make you worthy of love. You already are. The healing is so you can feel worthy of it. She left him with those words echoing in his mind. Andrew lay in the dark, heart pounding, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Tomorrow the tests would begin. Tomorrow he'd start the long journey back to himself. But tonight, for the first time in forever, Andrew Benjamin allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't beyond saving after all. And the woman on the other side of that wall, the one who'd looked at his shattered pieces and seen something worth rebuilding, might just be the person to prove it. Chapter 5. The Garden Where Healing Grows. Morning arrived with birdsong and Angel's gentle knock on the door. Ready? Andrew opened the door anyway. Angel stood in the hallway with a tray holding orange juice and a muffin. Eat first. Blood work requires an empty stomach, but I'm bending that rule. You need your strength. They moved through the tests with clinical efficiency. Angel was professional, careful, explaining each step before she did it. Drawing blood, checking vitals, running basic physical examinations. Andrew forced himself to stay present, to not flee into his head, where panic lived. Good. That's the hard part done. I'll send these to a lab I trust. Results in a few days. And then we know what we're working with. But we don't wait for results to start healing. She pulled him toward the back door. Come on, we have work to do. Behind the clinic stretched a patch of overgrown earth. Weeds choked what might have once been a garden. Broken tools leaned against the fence. This is my shame. I keep meaning to fix it, but clinic hours swallow all my time. So here's my proposition. We turn this mess into something beautiful. Together. I don't know anything about gardens. Neither do I, really. We'll figure it out as we go. She handed him a shovel. Healing isn't just medicine, Andrew. It's teaching your body and mind to grow again, to reach towards sunlight instead of hiding in shadows. Gardens are perfect for that. So they dug, cleared weeds, broke up hard earth. Andrew's muscles screamed. He'd been sedentary for so long that even simple labor exhausted him. But there was something meditative about it, something that quieted the chaos in his head. You know what this reminds me of? Starting over. You can't plant new things until you clear out the old growth. Remove what's choking the soil. Andrew understood the metaphor. You're not subtle. Never claimed to be. She grinned. But am I wrong? No, you're not wrong. Days flowed into each other, marked by garden work and clinic tasks. Angel created a routine: morning tests, afternoon labor, evening discussions about the treatment plan taking shape in her mind. She prescribed herbal supplements to flush toxins, designed exercises to rebuild his atrophied muscles. Most importantly, she talked to him about everything and nothing. About her past, her dreams, her reasons for becoming a doctor. I was engaged once. He was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, funny, ambitious. Angel's hands stilled in the dirt. Car accident, sudden. One day he was here, the next he wasn't. I almost didn't survive his death. Not physically, emotionally. I drowned in grief for years. Finally realized I had two choices: die with him or live in a way that honored what we had. So, you became a doctor. So I became someone who could save others when I couldn't save him. She looked at Andrew with eyes that had seen their own share of darkness. We all carry our ghosts, Andrew. The question is whether we let them haunt us or teach us. Andrew felt seen in a way that went beyond the physical. I don't know how to let go of mine. You don't have to let go, just make peace. There's a difference. Time passed. The garden began showing signs of life, tiny green shoots pushing through soil they'd tended so carefully. Andrew watched them with something like wonder. Growth was possible. Even in dead earth, new life could emerge. The blood work results arrived on an overcast morning. Angel spread the papers across her desk, reading with focused intensity. Andrew stood by the window, afraid to breathe. Andrew, her voice was controlled. Come look at this. He moved on wooden legs to stand beside her. See these levels? Heavy metal toxicity. Specifically, compounds that interfere with hormonal production. Whatever she was giving you wasn't just random herbs. This was deliberate chemical castration. The words hit like a physical blow. There are substances, some medicinal, some not, that suppress testosterone production. Combined with psychological trauma, Angel looked up at him. Your body was attacked from every direction. But here's the important part, it's treatable. Your levels are depressed, not destroyed. With chelation therapy, proper supplementation, time, we can reverse this. Hope and terror warred in Andrew's chest. Months, maybe more. But Andrew, this is good news. Your baseline function is still there. It's just been suppressed. We wake it back up? Andrew looked out the window at their garden, at the impossibly fragile shoots of green fighting their way towards sunlight. If plants could do it, maybe he could too. Yes, I'm ready. The treatment began in earnest. Angel administered chelation therapy through IV drips that pulled the toxins from his system. She prescribed supplements that tasted horrible, but apparently rebuilt what had been torn down. Most challenging were the meditation exercises. Close your eyes. Breathe. Focus on your body without judgment. I hate my body. I know. That's why we're doing this. You need to rebuild your relationship with yourself. It was agony. Sitting with his feelings, his shame, his rage at what had been stolen. But Angel sat with him through it all, breathing when he breathed, present when he wanted to flee. You're doing so well, she'd say. And Andrew would believe her because she never lied. The garden grew. So did Andrew. Not just physically, though his muscles regained definition from the daily labor. But internally, the constant panic that had lived in his chest began to ease. The shame didn't disappear, but it lost its chokehold. One afternoon, a young couple came to the clinic. The woman was pregnant, glowing, her husband hovering protectively. Andrew helped them check in, watched them laugh together, and for the first time, the sight didn't fill him with bitter envy. Instead, he felt possibility, distant but real. Angel noticed. She always noticed. You smiled at them. Did I? A real smile. Not the fake ones you give when you think you're supposed to. Andrew considered this. I think I'm starting to believe it's possible. Joy, I mean. For me, it is possible. Angel's hand found his as they stood in their garden, surrounded by plants they'd grown together. You're already so much stronger than you were. Because of you. Because of us. This is partnership, Andrew. I'm guiding, but you're doing the work. You're choosing to heal every single day. Something shifted in the space between them. The air felt charged, heavy with unspoken things. Andrew's heart hammered against his ribs. Angel, not yet. When you're ready, when you're whole, when you can say it without fear of obligation or gratitude, then I'll listen. But not yet. She was right. Of course she was right. But Andrew's chest ached with everything he couldn't say. Time passed. The garden exploded with life. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, flowers. Angel used the herbs in her practice. The vegetables fed them both. The flowers simply existed to be beautiful, which Andrew found oddly profound. His body changed. Strength returned to limbs that had forgotten what power felt like. His mind cleared of the fog that had clouded it. Most startling stirrings of physical response. Nothing dramatic, just awareness, sensation where there had been only numbness. He didn't tell Angel immediately. Was afraid to jinx it. But one morning, while they worked side by side repotting plants, her arm brushed his, and something sparked through him. Unmistakable. Real. Andrew froze. Angel noticed his stillness. You okay? I think something just... He couldn't find words. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Oh, Andrew. It's not much. Just a flicker. But I haven't felt anything like that in years. That's your body remembering. Coming back online, they stood in the garden they'd created together, and Andrew felt tears streaming down his face. Not from sadness, from relief so profound it bordered on religious. It's working. You're saving me. We're saving you. Every day you choose to keep going, to keep trying. That's you saving yourself. More time arrived quietly. Andrew woke one morning and realized he felt good. Not perfect, not undamaged, but good. His body felt like his own again. His mind had space for thoughts beyond shame and fear. Angel ran the final tests. When she reviewed the results, her smile could have lit the entire clinic. Your levels are normal. Andrew, you're physiologically healthy. Whatever damage was done, we've repaired it. Andrew sat down hard in the chair. All those days of daily work, of trusting this woman who'd saved him in every way a person could be saved. And now, I'm whole again, he said, testing the words. You were always whole, just wounded. There's a difference. That night, as Andrew lay in the recovery room that had become his home, he touched his own body without revulsion for the first time in forever, felt the strength in his muscles, the steady beat of his heart, the slow stirring of desire, not for anyone in particular, just the basic human capacity to want, to feel, to be alive. Tomorrow, he'd tell Angel everything he'd been holding back. Tomorrow, he'd stop hiding behind gratitude and fear. Tomorrow, he'd be brave enough to risk his heart one more time. But tonight, he simply marveled at the miracle of being human again, of inhabiting his own skin without shame, of planting gardens and watching impossible things grow. Chapter 6, The Night Everything Changed. The storm rolled in without warning on a humid evening, and Drew stood in the garden watching dark clouds swallow the sky, feeling the electricity in the air that promised violence. He should go inside, secure the plants they'd worked so hard to nurture. But something kept him rooted there, face tilted toward the coming rain. "Andrew!" Angel called from the back door. "Get in here before you're soaked." He turned, saw her silhouetted in the doorway, backlit by warm clinic light. Something in his chest twisted, not pain, but its opposite, recognition, belonging, love. The word hit him like lightning. Love. He loved her. Not gratitude. Not dependence. Real, terrifying, all-consuming love. The rain came sudden and torrential. Andrew ran for the door, and Angel pulled him inside, laughing as water streamed from his clothes onto her clean floor. "You're impossible," she scolded without heat, grabbing towels. "I was thinking about everything. Nothing. The miracle of standing here with working muscles and a functioning body and a heart that remembered how to feel something other than shame." But he said none of that, just accepted the towel and dried his face. The power flickered once, twice, then died completely, plunging the clinic into darkness. Perfect. Generator's been acting up. I should have fixed it weeks ago. I'll look at it tomorrow. You fixed everything else around here. I'm starting to think you're irreplaceable." The word hung in the darkness between them. Irreplaceable. Andrew's heart hammered so hard he was certain she could hear it. Angel moved through the clinic with practiced ease, lighting candles, setting them strategically until the space glowed with warm, flickering light. The storm raged outside, but inside felt like sanctuary. "Hungry? I have soup, bread, nothing fancy." "Sounds perfect." They ate at the small kitchen table, the same table where Andrew had first confessed his brokenness, where they'd planned garden layouts and discussed treatment protocols. Now it felt different, intimate, charged with possibility. The tests were clear. "You're healed, Andrew, completely. You know what that means? That I should probably leave. Stop imposing on your space. Get back to whatever life I have. Is that what you want?" The question sat heavy between them. Andrew set down his spoon, met her eyes across candlelight. "No, I don't want to leave. But I don't know what I'm allowed to want anymore." "Why not?" "Because everything I have, my health, my strength, my ability to feel human again, it's all because of you." "How do I separate gratitude from everything else?" Angel leaned forward, candlelight painting shadows across her face. This was it. The moment he either risked everything or retreated into safety. Andrew took a breath that hurt. "I love you, not because you healed me, not because you gave me back my life. I mean, you did those things, and I'll always be grateful. But I love you because of who you are. Your terrible jokes, the way you hum while you work, how you see beauty in broken things, the kindness you show everyone who walks through that door." Tears streamed down his face, and he didn't try to stop them. "I love you because you looked at me when I was less than nothing and saw someone worth saving. Because you planted a garden with me and taught me that growth is possible even in the deadest soil. Because every morning I wake up and the first thing I want is to see your face." His hands shook so badly he had to grip the table edge. "But I'm terrified, Angel, terrified that I'm confusing everything, that I'm broken in ways we haven't fixed yet. That I'll disappoint you or hurt you or prove that I'm still not enough. So if you tell me this is just gratitude, if you tell me to leave, I'll go. I'll find a way to be okay. But I needed you to know, before I lost my courage. I needed you to know that you changed everything." Silence. Just candlelight and storm sounds, and Andrew's racing heart. Then Angel stood, walked around the table, knelt beside his chair like she had months ago when he'd first confessed his trauma. "Andrew Benjamin, I've been waiting to hear those words." Andrew pulled back, stunned. "I fell for you the first night, when you stood in my doorway, soaked and broken and still trying to apologize for existing. But I couldn't say anything, not while you were healing, not while you might confuse gratitude with love. I needed you whole before I could risk my own heart. You have feelings for me? Do feelings? Andrew, I'm in love with you, completely, terrifyingly. I love your terrible flower-giving skills. The way you talk to plants like they're people. How you help patients even when you're exhausted. Your strength. Your gentleness. Your courage." She kissed his forehead, and Andrew felt electricity shoot through his entire body. "I love the man you were before she destroyed you. The man you became while surviving hell. And the man you're becoming now. All of it. All of you. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be in a relationship without fear. Then we figure it out together, slowly, carefully, with all the patience we showed that garden." Andrew pulled her up, stood with her. They faced each other in candlelight, while rain hammered the roof and wind shook the windows. "Can I kiss you?" "I thought you'd never ask." Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, both of them shaking. Then deeper, hungrier, years of loneliness and longing poured into that kiss. Andrew's hands tangled in Angel's hair, and she pressed against him, solid and real and here. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Angel took his hand. "Come with me." She led him through the darkened clinic to her private quarters, a space he'd never entered, her sanctuary. Candles flickered on the dresser, casting dancing shadows across simple furniture and warm blankets. "Are you sure? Because if we do this and I can't, if my body's still, then we stop, then we hold each other, and it's still perfect. Andrew, this isn't about performance. It's about connection. Whatever happens, we're together. That's all that matters. She kissed him again, and Andrew felt his body respond, not just mechanically, but emotionally. Every nerve ending came alive. His hands remembered how to touch. His heart remembered how to open. They undressed slowly, reverently, both crying as they explored skin and scars and the geography of each other's wounds. Angel traced the tension Andrew still carried in his shoulders. Andrew kissed the sadness that lived in the hollow of her throat. "You're beautiful," he whispered, and meant it in every possible way. "So are you. So incredibly, perfectly, beautifully you." When they came together, it was slow and careful and sacred. Andrew's body remembered what to do, not just remembered, but exceeded every memory. This wasn't performance, it was communion. Two broken people becoming whole in each other's arms. He moved inside her, and she wrapped around him, and they breathed together like they'd been practicing in the garden. Finding rhythm, building something new from the ashes of old pain. "I've got you. I've got you, and I'm not letting go." Andrew buried his face in her neck and wept, tears of gratitude, relief, joy, love, everything he'd been holding back for so long, for his entire broken life. When they finished, they lay tangled together, skin to skin, hearts synced. The storm outside had gentled to steady rain. Candlelight flickered and steadied. The world felt newborn. "Thank you," Andrew said, kissing her shoulder, her neck, her lips. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up, for seeing me, for teaching me that love doesn't have to hurt, that it can heal instead." Angel pulled him closer. "You did the hard work, Andrew. You chose to heal. You chose to trust. You chose to love again despite everything." They stayed awake all night, talking and touching and marveling at the impossibility of finding each other. As dawn light began filtering through the windows, Angel propped herself on one elbow, studying Andrew's face. Andrew pulled her into his lap. "I'll have you, today, tomorrow, every day you'll let me." Angel laughed. "That's a long time, Andrew Benjamin. With you, I'm ready for whatever comes." They fell asleep as the sun rose, wrapped around each other, healing hearts beating in time. Outside, their garden caught the morning light, every plant reaching toward the sky, living proof that from the deadest soil, the most beautiful things can grow. Chapter 7. The Three Heartbeats of Destiny. Weeks flowed like honey, sweet, slow, golden. Andrew moved completely into Angel's quarters, though they both laughed at how unnecessary the pretense had been. He'd been living at the clinic for months. Now he simply stopped hiding where he slept. Mornings became their sacred time. Waking tangled together, Andrew's face buried in Angel's hair, her hand resting over his heart. They'd lie there in comfortable silence, grateful for the miracle of each other. "I keep thinking I'll wake up, and this will all be a dream." Angel kissed his chest. "If it's a dream, we're having it together. That's enough for me." They fell into rhythms that felt like they'd existed forever. Andrew handled clinic repairs and administrative work Angel had been putting off for years. Angel taught him basic first aid, let him assist with minor procedures. They cooked together, ate together, tended their ever-expanding garden together. "We should plant roses," Andrew laughed. "After my stunning track record with rose-giving, the practice makes perfect. Besides, I want roses because you tried to give me one. That moment deserves commemoration." So they planted roses. Red ones, white ones, pink ones, that reminded Andrew of sunrise. Each one a promise, each one a prayer. But something changed in Angel, small things at first. She'd pause during patient examinations, one hand pressed to her stomach, face momentarily distant. She'd feel her own pulse at odd times, frown slightly, then continue whatever she'd been doing. Andrew noticed but said nothing, giving her space to process whatever she was processing. Then came the morning she ran to the bathroom and vomited. Andrew held her hair back, rubbing her spine while she heaved. "Must have been something I ate. Do you need to lie down?" "No, I'm fine. Just a stomach bug. It'll pass." But it didn't pass. For several mornings straight, Angel woke nauseated. She'd forced down dry toast and ginger tea, insisting she was fine, just fighting off something minor. Andrew wasn't convinced. He'd watched her treat countless patients with stomach issues. She never looked this worried while diagnosing them. Then one morning, Angel stood in the bathroom doorway, face pale, holding something small in her shaking hand. "Andrew, we need to talk." His heart stopped. "I'm pregnant." The world tilted sideways. Andrew grabbed the doorframe for support. She held up the small stick. Even from across the room, Andrew could see the 2 pink lines. A pregnancy test. And it's positive. They sat on the bed, hands clasped, both staring at the positive test like it might change if they looked hard enough. "I need to do an ultrasound. Confirm the pregnancy. Check viability." Angel set up the ultrasound machine in her examination room with hands that shook slightly. Andrew sat beside the table, holding her free hand while she prepared the equipment. "This is surreal. I've done hundreds of these. Never imagined being the patient." She applied the gel, pressed the transducer to her abdomen, and both of them stared at the screen. Static. Movement. Then suddenly, there. A small shape. Barely visible, but unmistakably real. "Oh my God, there you are." Andrew squeezed her hand, unable to speak. That tiny cluster of cells was his. Theirs, a whole future contained in something smaller than his thumb. Angel moved the transducer slightly, adjusting the angle. Her professional focus sharpened as she examined the image. Then she froze, Andrew's panic rising. "Nothing's wrong. Hold on." Angel moved the transducer again, more deliberately. Checked another angle. Her eyes went wide. "Andrew! There's 2. 2 babies. Look, 2 distinct sacs. 2 separate heartbeats." "Wait." Angel's voice had gone very quiet. Very professional. The voice she used when something was either very wrong or very extraordinary. "Just give me a second." She adjusted the transducer one more time. Held it still, counted silently. Oh my God, Andrew. Not twins, triplets, 3 separate sacs. 3 heartbeats! "Andrew, I'm pregnant with triplets." The room spun, actually spun. Andrew gripped the edge of the examination table, like it was the only solid thing in a universe gone mad. 3 babies. 3 babies. They stared at each other. Then back at the screen, where 3 tiny forms pulsed with impossible life. Angel turned fully to face him, forgetting the ultrasound entirely. "I spent years thinking children weren't in my future, that I'd given up that possibility when I lost my fiancée. And then you walked into my clinic, broken and beautiful, and you gave me back hope. You gave me back life." Tears streamed down her face. "Now we're creating 3 new lives, 3 chances at joy, 3 little people who'll be part you and part me. It's terrifying. It's impossible. It's the most perfect thing I've ever heard." Andrew pulled her into his arms, both of them crying and laughing and holding each other like they'd drown without the anchor of each other's bodies. "Marry me." Angel pulled back. "Marry me. Not because you're pregnant, though that's incredible. Not because I owe you, though I owe you everything. Marry me because I love you. Because I want to build a life with you. Because I want those 3 babies to have parents who chose each other every single day. I don't have a ring. I don't have a plan. I just have this." He took her hand, pressed it over his heart. "A heart that beats because you taught it how. A life that exists because you refuse to give up. And love. So much love I don't have words big enough to contain it." Angel's hand stayed pressed to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of the heart she'd saved. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything." They kissed desperately, joyfully, 2 people who'd survived their own private hells and somehow found heaven in each other's arms. 3 babies. "We're having 3 babies. Jimmy, Tommy, and Henry," Angel said, then laughed at his startled expression. "I don't know where that came from. The names just appeared in my head. Jimmy, Tommy, and Henry, our sons. Our sons." Angel placed both their hands on her still flat belly. "Our family." They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, hands covering the impossible miracle growing inside her. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Inside, 3 tiny hearts beat their first rhythm, a song of renewal, of second chances, of lives redeemed through the simple act of refusing to give up hope. I was dead. You gave me life. Now we've created 3 more. Angel kissed him softly. We saved each other, Andrew, and now we get to save them. 3 perfect chances to love without fear. I'm terrified. Me too. But we'll figure it out, together, just like we figured out everything else. Andrew looked at the ultrasound screen one more time, at the 3 tiny shapes that represented his entire future. Jimmy, Tommy, and Henry. Our boys. Our family. Our miracle. And in that moment, standing in a simple clinic with the woman he loved and 3 heartbeats barely big enough to register, Andrew Benjamin understood what he'd spent so long searching for. Home wasn't a place. It wasn't a mansion or a bank account or status. Home was this. Love and life and impossible miracles growing in the space between 2 people brave enough to try again. Chapter 8. The Preparation for New Life. Andrew attacked the nursery renovation with the intensity of a man possessed. The small room beside Angel's quarters had been used for storage. Boxes of old medical files, broken equipment, forgotten things. Now it would house 3 cribs, 3 changing tables, 3 of everything. You don't have to do this all at once. Yes, I do. They need a perfect space, clean, safe, bright. He looked up, saw her amused expression. I'm being obsessive, aren't I? A little, but it's adorable. She waddled over. Her belly had expanded dramatically in recent weeks, carrying 3 babies instead of 1. They won't care if the walls are perfectly painted, Andrew. They'll just care that we love them. I know, but I care. I need them to have everything I can give them. Angel understood without him having to explain. This wasn't just about preparing for babies. This was Andrew proving to himself that he could provide, protect, be the father he'd never thought he'd become. So she let him paint and measure and fret, offering opinions when asked, but mostly just loving him for the fierce devotion he poured into every detail. The community rallied around them. Patients brought hand-me-down baby clothes, cribs, advice. The elderly woman who'd received Andrew's misdirected rose showed up with knitted blankets in 3 different colors. Blue for Jimmy, yellow for Tommy, green for Henry. Don't ask me how I know which is which. I just do. Word spread through the small town about the doctor and her partner expecting triplets. People they'd never met dropped off casseroles, diapers, offers to help. It was overwhelming and beautiful, and everything Andrew had forgotten about human kindness. This is what community feels like. I'd forgotten. In my old life, everything was transactional. No one did anything without expecting something back. That wasn't community. That was business. Angel folded a tiny onesie, marveling at how small it was. This is what happens when you let people see you need help. They show up. The pregnancy was difficult. Carrying 3 babies took a toll Angel tried to hide but couldn't. Her ankles swelled. Her back ached constantly. She had trouble sleeping, eating, moving. But she never complained. Andrew did the complaining for her. You need to rest more. I have patience. I'll handle them. Or we'll reschedule. Angel, you're growing 3 humans. That's the most important work in the world right now. She'd protest, but ultimately gave in because Andrew had become immovable on this point. Her health and the baby's health superseded everything else. He read every book he could find about pregnancy, childbirth, infant care, attended every doctor's appointment with notebook in hand, asking questions the obstetrician was initially surprised by, then charmed by. Most fathers barely show up to one appointment. You're here taking notes like you're defending a thesis. These are my sons. I intend to know everything. At night, when Angel was finally comfortable, propped up with pillows, her massive belly making sleep nearly impossible, Andrew would talk to the babies, his hands resting on her stomach, feeling them kick and move. Hey, Jimmy, that's you on the left, right? Stop kicking your brothers. Tommy, I feel you in the middle there, causing trouble already. And Henry way down low. You're the peaceful one, aren't you?" Angel would smile in the darkness, running her fingers through Andrew's hair while he communed with their sons. "I feel them beating up my internal organs. Does that count?" Andrew kissed her belly gently. "Guys, go easy on your mom. She's the one keeping you alive in there." The final weeks were the hardest. Angel could barely walk. Andrew carried her when necessary, helped her bathe, dressed her when bending over became impossible. The roles had reversed completely. Now he was the caretaker, she the patient. "I feel useless. I can't even put on my own shoes." "You're creating 3 lives. That's the opposite of useless." Andrew knelt before her, gently working her swollen feet into soft slippers. "You gave me back my life. Now you're making 3 new ones. You're the most powerful person I know. I'm scared, Andrew. What if something goes wrong?" Stop." He took her face in his hands. "You're going to be an incredible mother. You have more love and patience than anyone I've ever met. And even when you're scared, even when you don't know what you're doing, I'm here. We're doing this together." Angel kissed him desperately. "Promise me that even when things get hard, even when I'm exhausted and crazy, and probably not very nice to live with, promise you won't leave." Angel Elijah. Soon to be Angel Benjamin. I waited a lifetime in hell for you. You think a few sleepless nights are going to chase me away? She laughed through her tears. "There will be more than a few. I'm counting on it. Bring on the chaos. I'm ready." But nothing could have prepared them for the actual moment. Angel woke at dawn with the first contraction, a tightening across her massive belly that made her gasp. "Andrew, it's time." He was out of bed instantly, adrenaline erasing all traces of sleep. Another contraction hit, stronger. The drive to the regional hospital felt endless. Andrew kept one hand on Angel's, the other white-knuckled on the steering wheel, while she breathed through contractions that came closer and closer together. They made it to the hospital with minutes to spare. The staff took one look at Angel's condition and rushed her to a delivery room. Everything became a blur. Doctors, nurses, equipment, controlled chaos. Andrew stayed by Angel's side, holding her hand while she squeezed hard enough to cut off circulation. He didn't care. She could break every bone if she needed to. "You're incredible. So strong, so brave. I love you so much." The labor was intense, difficult, scary in moments when the doctors' faces grew concerned. But Andrew never left, never flinched. Just held Angel's hand and breathed with her and prayed to every deity he could name that she'd be okay. Then finally a cry, high and indignant and perfect. First one, "It's a boy." "Jimmy!" Andrew and Angel said simultaneously. They placed him on Angel's chest for a brief moment, eyes squeezed shut, face red, absolutely beautiful, before taking him to be checked. Minutes later, another cry joined the first. "Number 2! Another boy." "Tommy!" Andrew laughed, crying openly now. Angel was exhausted, her face pale with effort, but she smiled. "One more. Come on, Henry, come meet your brothers." The third delivery was the hardest. The doctor's concern deepened. Angel pushed with everything she had left. Andrew felt helpless, useless, terrified of losing her after coming so far. Then soft and quiet, a third cry. And the last one. "Congratulations, it's a boy. Henry, that's our Henry." They brought all 3 boys to Angel, placing them carefully on her chest. 3 tiny faces, 3 little bodies. 3 perfect miracles. Andrew looked at his sons, at Jimmy with his alert eyes, Tommy with his loud cry, Henry with his peaceful expression, and felt his heart expand beyond his chest, beyond the room, beyond anything he'd ever thought possible. "We did it. We actually did it. You did it. You're amazing. They're amazing. This is—" He couldn't finish. Had no words big enough. Angel touched each baby's head gently. "Hello, Jimmy. Hello, Tommy. Hello, Henry. We're your parents, and we love you more than you'll ever understand." Andrew placed his hand over hers, covering their sons. His family. His impossible, perfect, miraculous family. "Thank you for everything. For saving me. For loving me. For giving me this. We saved each other. And now we get to raise them together. Our boys. Our family. Jimmy made a small sound. Tommy squirmed. Henry settled contentedly. 3 tiny humans who had no idea they'd been born from ashes, created by 2 people who'd found each other in the darkness and chose to build light. Andrew looked at his wife and sons and felt complete in a way he'd never imagined possible. Not fixed, he'd always carry scars, but whole, finally, blessedly, miraculously whole. Chapter 9. The Days That Built a Kingdom. The first night home from the hospital, Andrew understood why people called it surviving rather than thriving. 3 babies meant 3 different sleep schedules, 3 sets of needs, 3 tiny dictators running their lives. Jimmy woke at midnight, crying with a fury that suggested deep personal offense at the world. Andrew stumbled from bed, lifted his son from the bassinet they'd placed beside theirs, and walked him around the dark room. "Hey, buddy, what's wrong?" Jimmy's answer was more crying. Andrew heated a bottle one-handed, managed to get the nipple into his son's mouth, and watched with relief as Jimmy latched on and began eating. "There we go. That's better, right?" From the other bassinet, Tommy started fussing, of course, because 1 baby at a time was too simple. Angel sat up groggily. "I've got Tommy, you stay with Jimmy." "You sure?" "You should rest." "Andrew, there are 3 of them. Rest is a myth we used to believe in." But she smiled as she said it, lifting Tommy and settling him against her chest to nurse. Henry blessedly stayed asleep, the peaceful one, just like Andrew had predicted. They sat in the dim light, each holding a baby, exhausted and happy and completely overwhelmed. Is this what the next 18 years look like? Probably. But look at them. Andrew gazed down at Jimmy, who'd finished eating and was now staring up with unfocused eyes. "They're perfect, worth every sleepless night. Ask me that again at 3 in the morning when all 3 are screaming." Andrew laughed softly. "Fair enough." The days blurred into each other in ways that felt both endless and fleeting. Diapers, bottles, burping, crying, laundry that seemed to regenerate the moment it was folded. The clinic had to reduce hours because Angel physically couldn't keep up, though she tried. Patients understood. The community continued showing up with food, offers to hold babies while exhausted parents showered. Advice that was sometimes helpful and sometimes hilariously outdated. Andrew discovered reserves of patience he'd never known he possessed. When Jimmy cried for hours with colic, Andrew walked him and sang off-key lullabies until his voice gave out. When Tommy fought every diaper change like it was Mortal Kombat, Andrew learned to change a diaper faster than he'd thought humanly possible. When Henry spit up spectacularly all over Andrew's last clean shirt, Andrew just laughed and grabbed another one. "You're a natural." "I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. That's what all parents do. The difference is you're doing it with love." The triplets developed personalities quickly. Jimmy was serious, observant, studying everything with intense focus. Tommy was the troublemaker, always squirming, always fussing, always demanding attention. Henry was gentle, content to simply exist, rarely crying unless truly uncomfortable. They're so different. How are they so different already? Because they're people. Tiny, demanding, milk-obsessed people. But people. One morning, Andrew woke to silence. Complete, total silence. Panic shot through him. He checked the bassinets frantically, all 3 boys sleeping peacefully, chests rising and falling in steady rhythm. Relief crashed over him so powerfully he had to sit down. "They're okay. I checked an hour ago. They're just actually sleeping at the same time for once. For the next 20 minutes until they wake up, we sleep." "That's an order." He obeyed, wrapping around her, both of them sinking into unconsciousness like drowning people finally allowed to surface for air. The clinic slowly reopened for limited hours. Patients were understanding, often bringing their own children to appointments, so the waiting room became a sea of parents exchanging war stories. 3 at once? You're either blessed or cursed. I can't tell which. Both. Definitely both. Andrew took over most of the clinic's administrative work, managing appointments and inventory while staying close enough to help with the boys. The elderly woman who'd received his misdirected rose visited frequently, always with fresh baked goods and an eagerness to hold babies. "Let me take one. You two look dead on your feet." They'd gratefully hand over whichever baby was calmest, then immediately use that time to tend to the other two. Parenthood was a constant triage situation. Who needs what most urgently right now? One particularly challenging evening, all three boys were crying, simultaneously, at full volume. Andrew held Jimmy, trying to soothe him. Angel held Tommy, rocking him frantically. Henry wailed from his crib. Nothing worked. No amount of feeding, changing, burping, or bouncing made any difference. They looked at each other across the chaos, exhausted and frustrated, and at their absolute limit. Then simultaneously they started laughing. Hysterical, sleep-deprived, this is our life now laughter. The babies, perhaps confused by their parents' bizarre response, slowly quieted. One by one the crying tapered off until blessed silence returned. They stood in the middle of their living room, each holding a baby, laughing until tears streamed down their faces. Not from sadness or frustration, but from the pure absurdity of loving these tiny humans so much while simultaneously having no clue what they were doing. As weeks turned into months, routines emerged. The boys started sleeping in longer stretches. Andrew and Angel learned to function on fragmented sleep. The clinic returned to almost normal hours. Life found a rhythm, chaotic, exhausting, but undeniably theirs. Andrew often found himself standing in the nursery doorway at night, watching his sons sleep in their matching cribs. Jimmy on the left, Tommy in the middle, Henry on the right. Three perfect miracles, who had no idea they'd been born from their father's resurrection. Angel would find him there, wrap her arms around his waist, rest her head against his back. "I don't deserve this. Any of this. You them this life. Stop that. You deserve every good thing that's ever happened to you, and more. I spent so long believing I was nothing, less than nothing. And now," he gestured to his sleeping sons, "now I have everything. We have everything. This is ours. All of it." One afternoon, while the boys napped and the clinic was quiet, Angel pulled Andrew into their bedroom. "We should plan our wedding. Something small, simple. Just us and the boys and the people who've helped us get here. You still want to marry me? After seeing me at 3 a.m. covered in baby vomit. Especially after that. That's real life, Andrew. And I want all of it with you." Andrew kissed her slowly, deeply, grateful for the millionth time that she'd opened her clinic door to a drowning stranger. "How about the garden, where we planted everything together? Where this all really began? Perfect. Absolutely perfect. They planned it together over stolen moments, between diaper changes and feeding times. Nothing elaborate. Just honest vows and promises, and 3 babies as witnesses to their parents choosing each other. The night before the wedding, Andrew sat in the nursery with all 3 boys. Jimmy was awake, staring at his father with solemn eyes. Tommy slept fitfully. Henry made soft sounds that might have been dreams. "Tomorrow, your mom and I get married. We're already a family, but tomorrow makes it official. You 3 are the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Well, second greatest. Your mom is first, but you're a very close second." Jimmy yawned enormously, clearly unimpressed with his father's speech. "I'm gonna mess up a lot. I'll make mistakes. I won't always know what I'm doing. But I promise you this, I will love you every single day. I will show up. I will try. And I will never, ever make you feel like you're not enough." He kissed Jimmy's forehead, then Tommy's, then Henry's, his sons, his family, his proof that miracles existed. "Thank you. Thank you for choosing us to be your parents." From the doorway, Angel watched her future husband commune with their children. Tomorrow, they'd stand in their garden and promise forever. But she already knew they'd keep that promise. They'd survived too much, fought too hard, loved too completely to ever let go. Ready for tomorrow? Andrew looked up. smiled the smile of a man who'd found his way home after wandering lost for years. More ready than I've ever been for anything in my life. Chapter 10. The Kiss That Sealed Forever. The garden had transformed into something magical without trying. The roses they'd planted together bloomed in perfect timing, their petals catching afternoon sunlight. Simple white chairs formed a small semicircle. No elaborate decorations, just nature and love, and the quiet miracle of two broken people choosing to build something whole. Angel stood in her quarters, adjusting the simple white dress she'd chosen. Nothing fancy, nothing that tried too hard. Just her, honest and real, about to marry the man who'd taught her that saving someone could mean saving yourself. A soft knock. The elderly woman entered, the one who'd received Andrew's misdirected rose, carrying a small bouquet. For you, dear, from your groom. He wanted to make sure you got the right flower this time. Angel took the bouquet. White roses, the same kind Andrew had tried to give her that first time, and felt tears burn her eyes. Some moments were too perfect for words. In the nursery, Andrew wrestled 3 tiny suits onto 3 squirming babies. Jimmy accepted his outfit with stoic patience. Tommy fought every button like it personally offended him. Henry simply went along with whatever was happening, as peaceful as always. There, you 3 look perfect, almost as handsome as your father. Tommy immediately spit up on his suit, because of course he did. Close enough. Your mother will understand. The ceremony was small. Just the people who mattered, the patients who'd become friends, the neighbors who'd brought casseroles, the doctor who'd delivered the triplets. Andrew stood at the makeshift altar they'd created from garden arbor, holding Henry, while a volunteer held the other 2 boys in the front row. Then Angel appeared, walking through the garden they'd built together, and Andrew forgot how to breathe. She was radiant, not because of the dress or her hair or any external thing. She simply glowed with joy so pure it seemed to emanate from her skin. Hi. Hi, yourself. You look... I don't have words. That's okay. I don't need words. The efficient, a kind woman from town smiled at them both. Shall we begin? They spoke vows they'd written themselves. Andrew went first, his voice shaking. Angel, you found me when I was drowning. You saw worth in a broken man who couldn't see it in himself. You didn't just heal my body. You taught me how to be human again, how to hope, how to love without fear. You gave me these 3 perfect boys, and more importantly, you gave me you. I promised to choose you every day, to laugh with you, cry with you, build gardens with you for the rest of our lives. Angel's turn. She took his free hand while he held Henry. Andrew, you walked into my clinic during a storm, and I thought I was saving you. Turns out you were saving me right back. You reminded me that healing goes both ways. That strength isn't about never breaking. It's about having the courage to rebuild. You're the best man I know, and I can't wait to spend forever proving it to you. They exchanged simple bands. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Andrew carefully handed Henry to Angel, freeing both his hands so he could frame her face properly. I love you. I love you too. Now kiss me before I start crying. He did, soft and sweet and full of every promise they'd just made. The small gathering applauded. The triplets made various baby sounds. It was perfect chaos. After the ceremony, they mingled briefly with guests, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Then Angel disappeared with the boys to nurse them, while Andrew cleaned up chairs with several volunteers. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, intending to silence it, but saw the message was from an old business contact he hadn't heard from in years. Curiosity made him open it. Hey, Andrew. Weird message to send on what I heard is your wedding day, but thought you should know. Saw your ex-wife today. She's working as a waitress at Mel's Diner out on Route 9. Looks rough. The guy she left you for apparently dumped her not long after they got together. Lost everything. Just thought you'd want to know karma exists. Congrats on the wedding, man. Andrew read it twice. 3 times. waited for the rage, the satisfaction, the vindication he'd imagined for years. Nothing came, just peace. He found Angel in their bedroom, all three boys fed and sleeping peacefully in their baskets. She looked up as he entered. "Everything okay?" "I got a message." "About her, my ex-wife." Angel's expression shifted to concern. Andrew sat beside her, showed her the message. Angel read it silently, then looked at him carefully. Andrew looked at his sleeping sons, then at his wife standing beside him in the garden where he learned to be human again. He felt peace, pure, overwhelming, unexpected peace. No revenge, no anger, no bitterness, just peace. He showed Angel the message. She squeezed his hand, giving him space to feel whatever needs to be felt. Andrew looked up at the stars above them, the same stars that witnessed his years of death and his resurrection through love. He turned back to Angel, takes her face in his hands one more time, and kissed her deeply under those stars, a kiss that says everything words can't when they part. He's smiling. "Thank you for giving me pain first, so I could understand the meaning of true love." And under the stars, with his wife in his arms and his three sons sleeping beside them, Andrew Benjamin finally understood. Sometimes the poison that nearly destroys you is just destiny's brutal way of leading you home. The end.